So you've been paper trading for 3 months and you're profitable. When should you switch to real money? First off, 3 months is nothing. I would recommend that everybody start for a minimum of 6 months on paper. 6 months is nothing. It seems like a long time, but if you're ready to go after 90 days, you're mostly chasing greed. And actually 180 days to change your life is absolutely nothing. When do you switch to real? When your mind no longer differentiates between what's real and what's paper. Meaning you treat a loss on paper just as seriously as you treat a loss in real. You don't care about the profits in real just as much as you didn't care about the profits in paper. You care more about the process, the formula, and the plan of trading than you care about the result. Because if you look at the plan and the formula properly and you work on that plan and that formula properly, the profits will look after themselves. So first off, I would say 90 days is nothing. Go for another 6 months or at least 6 months total, and never switch to real until you're absolutely sure that when you're more worried about the process than you are about the result. How do I know if my paper trading results are actually meaningful or if I'm just getting lucky? Well, that comes back to the first question. If you're actually are wondering in the back of your head if I'm just getting lucky, you don't really know what you're doing, which means you should stay in paper. If you can't chart it backwards and say, this is what I picked, this is why I picked it, this is the homework I did, this is the belief I had for the market that day, this is my entrance point, this is what I risked, this is my exit point, this is how much I made or how much I lost. If you can't chart that day by day by day and go back in your notebook, and yes, folks, you should have a notebook and you should journal all this stuff. If you can't go back and meaningfully look at that and see it, doesn't matter. Then you are just getting lucky. If you have to doubt in your head whether it's all just luck, you don't really have any faith in your skills, and you should never play with real money until you have absolutely faith in your skills. How do you get faith? Exactly what I said with the journaling. You just keep going back, journaling everything, writing it all down, starting from scratch, talking about every trade, noting the time of the day, what entry you were in, when you entered, how you felt, how much you risked, what their outcome was. And you should be able to go back like a diary for those 6 months on paper minimum and be able to see, this is how I feel in the mornings. I can't really trade at the open. My kids are too loud or I'm too sleepy or whatever. I make better results at 9 than I do at 7 open or whatever. I have stress levels that hit me when I go over $1,000. I'm okay at $500 or below. Things you learn by reading what you're doing. And that's how you know if you're actually just doing something meaningful or you're just getting lucky. What's the difference between a strategy that works in a bull market or one that works in any market? Well, the answer to that question is the word strategy, because real traders don't care about bulls or bears. They care about movement. That's the beautiful part of this situation. No matter what we do, as long as we have movement, we can make money. If we have to worry about whether it's bull or whether it's bear, whether it's up, whether it's down, we're more worried that our skills won't bear it. Meaning, people that can make money in a bull market are always concerned they don't know what to do when it drops. Same thing with people who make money in a bear market are always worried they're risking too much in an uptrend. At the end of the day, for me and people I work with, I want them to understand I don't care if it goes up or if it goes down, long as it moves. And the key to trading successfully is identifying the movement before it happens. That's it. How do I stop revenge trading after a loss? I know what I'm doing wrong, but I can't stop. Well, you've just identified the trading problem of 99% of traders right there. Revenge trading is not much more than greed. And all greed, as I've said before in a previous video, is based on fear. Fear that you do not know what you're doing and you're just getting lucky. Fear that it's all just been a fluke and maybe you shouldn't risk your whole life savings or even $5 of your hard-earned cash on this because you don't really know what you're doing. When you chase a bad trade, and first off, there are no bad trades if you follow the process of journaling everything and identifying how it affects you. It's all just a learning opportunity. If you identify what triggers revenge trading, then you won. But FOMO itself won't go away until you recognize you are in control. When the minute you say, I can't stop, you're taking away the only powerful variable in a trader or in the market that has any control, that you have any control over. You can't control the market. You can't control the companies you're investing in. You can't control the opinions of anybody else that you're trading against or with, but you can control yourself. And the minute you say, I can't stop, It tells me that you believe, or you've taught yourself, that you have no self-control. If you have no self-control, you should never be touching real money. So anybody who gets involved in revenge trading, just going back in, trying to get their money back when the market takes it from them, or trying to grow or chase a lead that they thought was going to be great, those are the people who should never touch real money and should go back and journal again and start on paper and start all over, because they're dangerous to themselves and they're dangerous to the market. The answer is simple. What you're doing wrong is you're not ready for real money, and you should go back on paper and start over. I know that sounds harsh, but sometimes you got to go back a grade or two to be able to catch up to know what you're really doing when you finally graduate. What does a realistic daily, monthly P&L look like for a consistently profitable trader? That's a very vague question, because some people trade to afford the Rolex, the Lamborghini, and to have the penthouse and the beautiful girlfriend and the lifestyle of Andrew Tate. Some people trade, and these are the people I want to work with, to afford their daughter's dance lessons. A profitable trader and the P&L of a profitable trader is simple. Their daily, their monthly is always the same in regards to the fact they just beat the bank. That's it. The number themselves is so variable amongst the trader, depending on what their needs are, their risk ratios, how much they're putting in, that's impossible to give a number. It's impossible. Anybody gives you a number is lying, because it's vague, it's variable. But the profitable trader consistently just beats the bank. So every day, daily and monthly, the P&L should look like that person is consistently making more in trading than he would if he'd had his money in a simple savings account or a checking account or something like that. The banks pay you peanuts on 10 grand. They pay you peanuts daily. As long as you're beating them, you're fine. So the answer to that is simple. A realistic daily, monthly P&L look like for a consistently profitable trader. Every day, they just beat what anybody else would offer them as far as return on their money. What they do with that money and how much that profitable return looks like to them is up to the individual trader. Is it enough to pay for their daughter's dance lessons, or do they want to drive the Ferrari? The key is, as long as you beat everything else out there consistently and you have cumulative growth, you're fine. You're laughing. How do you find setups? You scan pre-market, use watches, or just follow one ticker? As a beginner, I would always tell people, only follow one ticker. Pick one of the big industries that you're really interested in personally, be it technology, maybe NVIDIA, be it electronic cars, be it Tesla, be it pharmaceuticals, be it Pfizer, whatever it is, something that you're actually going to do research on, because that's how you find your setups. You become a quasi-expert in that field and a definite expert in that area of specificity, meaning that you are a quasi-expert in cars and a real big expert in Tesla. You know what cars are coming out. You know when they're recalling them. You know their problems. You've read everything you can get your hands on. You know enough to know when something changes, and you see the change before everybody else does. The key to finding setups is to do your homework. The more you do your homework, and the more you're specific in your homework, the more likely you are to be successful. The meaning, what I say by that, instead of most traders look through a book and they treat it like the encyclopedia. They read 1,000 different things, about 1,000 different things, and they really at the end learn nothing. And they kind of end up being lucky if they're successful. The key to success is being specific, specializing in what you're good at or what interests you. And when you follow that hardly down and drill down into it, it's fairly easy in pre-market or even with a watch list to follow that one ticker and to know what's going to happen. Because if every morning you're Googling, which what most people do, what's happening in the market today, you're going to get a bunch of vague answers. Maybe one positive bit of news or maybe something about some company left or right. But if you say what's happening with NVIDIA today, or what's happening with Tesla today, or what's happening with Pfizer today, you're going to get stuff specific to that ticker that 98% of people aren't going to listen to or aren't going to read or aren't going to know, because they're still Googling what's happening with the market. They're being very vague. They're reading the encyclopedia. You're drilling down into a topic and a subject, and that's how you identify movement, by being a quasi-expert in your field and realizing you don't have to make $1 million on each trade with NVIDIA or Pfizer or Tesla. You just want to go back to the next point and beat the bank. Does that make sense? So, yeah. The problem is All successful trading can come down to 3 points. Okay. Remove greed. That removes the revenge trade problem. When in doubt, don't be ashamed to go back to the basics and start on paper. I know expert traders all day long that still paper trade. Why? Because that's how you keep your skills sharp. Why do you think professional boxers spar all the time? Instead of walking to a bar and going, hey, who wants to fight? Come on. They don't want to do that. That's how you get hurt. But they spar, they practice, they consistently practice. That's paper trading. And if the experts do it for their field, why would you do it for yours? And the third thing is be very specific in everything else after that. Be specific in your trade. Be directed in your profit and loss, meaning knowing how much you're risking, knowing how much you're losing. And journal the hell out of everything. Note what's not working. Be like a bodybuilder who charts his macros and his micros. Be like a bodybuilder who charts how much sleep he gets and how much creatine he takes and how much water he drinks. You're building a recipe for yourself to succeed. The more specific that recipe, the more likely you are to succeed. And if something doesn't work for you, you'll know where it went wrong. As opposed to throwing darts at a board like everybody else does, or taking some vague, obscure course, which will babble you with bullshit and cover you with terms that you don't really need to know. You don't need to know gamma and delta and decay. You don't need to know all the Greeks. You don't need to know all these things. All you need to know is, did I make money? How did I do it? And can I do it again? If I lost money, why did it happen? How can I stop it? And how can I avoid it? Very simple things. And you do all that by being as specific as you can in your goals, in your needs, and in your motivation. Your goal, decide honestly how much you think you can make. Oh, everybody wants to wear the Rolex and drive the Ferrari. I get that. But it's not realistic for most people. Most people realize they're never going to do it. So be realistic. If you can make an extra $500 a month, are you happy? If you can make an extra $50 a day, are you happy? Then how much money do I have to invest to make that happen? More importantly, how much training am I willing to put in consistently to consistently make that happen? Am I willing to paper trade for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years? Might take 2 years. You never know. But the key is once you learn to do this well, you will be the magician that makes straw into gold. And all your friends will wonder how you do it. They will, because they don't believe it's possible. 99% of the people who invest in the options trading system or invest in options trading markets lose money because 1, they don't know what they're doing. 2, they don't know why they're there. And 3, they make themselves overly complicated. The key is very simple. How do we make money? How do we keep that consistent? How do we duplicate it? Why do we lose money? How do we stop that from happening? How don't we duplicate it? That's it. The gammas, the deltas, the thetas, the decay, all these things that professional traders use, it's supplemental income. Unless you get really good at it, follow rules really tightly, make things work. But it's supplemental income. Most people try to make it real income before they've successfully made it supplemental income. And that's a problem because they run ahead. They run ahead of things and then they get hurt. They take the training wheels off too soon. Or they stop remembering what it was like to be a beginner after a few wins, and they stop paper trading. So they get sloppy in their skills, and soon they don't recognize where they're cutting corners. Soon mistakes happen. They don't know what happened because they've left behind the fundamentals. The key to this is simple. Start small, grow small, journal and chart everything, be specific in your trades, and don't get greedy. That's it. That's all. 5% a day on your money. Do the math on 250 trading days. Even if 1/5 of those are no-goes for you, maybe even more. Let's say half of 125 trading days. 100 trading days are successful. The rest are just 0. You're making 5% a day on your money. You're making 500% return on your money. Providing your stop losses are tight and you've always hit a 0 on the other end. But the point is, even if you make 10% in a month on your money successfully, net, even after all the losses, mistakes, whatever, does your bank pay you 10% a month? No. If they did, they'd go broke. They make 10% a month off you, but they don't pay you that. You beat your bank. You beat the bank. You beat the bank. That's the whole goal. Does that make any sense? Yeah. It's no, it's true. It's all proper trading is all about like suppressing human nature, being disciplined. And most people haven't got the discipline. Like anybody could learn to play guitar like Eric Clapton. Anybody could learn to probably write like Hemingway, and anybody could probably learn to be a successful trader if they're willing to put in the time, if they have the desire, right? I mean, Clapton wasn't Clapton when he was born. He was just a kid. Got a guitar for his 10th birthday, and away he goes, right? Because it became his thing. And he found out that he loved it. But I can guarantee there were times his fingers were sore and he thought he'd never do this, and it sucked. Hemingway got turned down more than he got accepted for most of his journaling, most of his writing. He used to paper one wall of his room with rejection letters. He said it kept out the cold winter of his own discontent, to quote Tolstoy. And then he went to become a man who wrote the saddest novel in only 5 words on a bet from his publisher. The key to being a good trader is in every trade, you inspire a mental image to yourself of what's possible. But you don't pretend that you're writing War and Peace. You don't pretend that you're painting the Sistine Chapel or you're playing Lola by Clapton. You start where you are, envisioning where you want to be, keeping your goals realistic, and always becoming and growing a little better cumulatively from yesterday than you are today. That's it. And it all starts, like you say, with putting that mental demon in a box and not being greedy. You've already tried to catch a falling knife, as the old terminology goes in trading, and cut your fingers. Why would you throw it in the air and try to catch it again with the same hand? That doesn't make any sense, does it? But they do it. Why? Because we're so afraid of losing? Losing what? Money? You replace money. Find money on the street. The one thing you can't replace is time and your own peace. You can't replace those things. And the peaceful man is one who learns how to successfully apply his time. The peaceful man is one who successfully learns how to apply his time. The more you successfully apply your time with choice, not chance, with discipline, not discord, the more you successfully do that, the more peace you have, because you live your life your way by your choosing.